Hey yo, what up, what up, what up, what up? So look, I spent a little bit more time with Gara just to get a better understanding of his character before I decided to release any review of the experience in which I've had with him. Now I think ultimately Gara was a really good playthrough. I was excited about the DLC, even though I'm not really a defensive type guy or really a Gara fan to that degree. But I think the Jitsu selection in which they chose for him was actually pretty good. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. So I like to start off with character design. His outfit and his appearance is something that's pulled directly from the anime. They did a really good job for that. I'm just kind of curious at what look they were originally going for. Because if it was like that homeless kid from the street, I'm hungry, my belly hurt because I ain't ate in 10 days type of orphanage look, then Gara pulls that off very well. Whoever designed them did a very good job. Moving on. Another thing I noticed is that when you block and hold the trigger, he puts up like a sand shield. He doesn't move, but the sand just blocks whatever incoming attacks are thrown at him. I like that addition. So the first move I want to talk about is Sand Coffin. It's a good move, but from distance, as you can see, the tracking is horrible. It's easy to dodge. And trust me, from a distance, I had high hope with this guy because I played with him as a defense range type, right? Because of the Sand Coffin hands that go out, but it's like even with this one, right? I shot him at the guy, it went over the building with him, but it still didn't connect. Don't know what happened. It's just from distance, man, I just had no luck whatsoever dealing with Sand Coffin. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad jitsu. That doesn't mean that I didn't learn how to use it to actually make it correct. There were just a few problems that I had with it. Like right here, Sand Coffin, I choose you, but it didn't choose me, so the guy got away, and that was pretty sad. Here, there's many interruptions, right? Like if you're shooting it at a certain angle, it's going to be stopped by trees or buildings and things of that sort. Or even when you're trying to execute it and someone throws kunais or whatever it is to hit you out of your jitsu, it's going to just stop. Even after you've activated and triggered it, it's still going to cut off on you. So it didn't work out using Sand Coffin from distance. So what I decided to do, man, was change things up and use it a little bit different. So what I did was I used it in a close range attack against Naruto. And what do you know? It landed. Even though the first one might have missed, there's still 3 other hands that are going out that are guaranteed to actually capture the opponent in Sand Coffin. And this is where it actually shined for me, man. And almost every single time I caught the person in Sand Coffin. So it began to be very beneficial every single time I used it and became a pleasure on top of that. Now, most of us know that while using Sand Coffin, it's actually a 2-stage jitsu. One traps them and the other one basically, like, you know, squeezes them and explodes and things of that sort, causing even more damage. And the more you use it, the stronger the jitsu actually becomes. So in that area, it adds even more of a perk and benefit to the usage. Now on to a second jitsu, which is Saiyan Tsunami. This jitsu was actually pretty good, man. I didn't really find any issues with it. I think it was a well-balanced jitsu because you weren't invincible. Like, yeah, you had super armor when it came down to triggering it, right, where they couldn't stop you. But once you were upon the wave in which you were riding, you weren't like Superman. They could damage you. You could be knocked out of it with the right type of jitsu. I just think it was well balanced, especially with the trail of sand left behind for wherever the tsunami has just traveled, and you can hit the trigger again to do or activate the second stage of the jitsu, which is sand burial. So two jitsus in one for both of Garra's moves, I thought was just a good selection and creation on both ends. Like, the jitsu was just fun to use, and that's something I'm always looking for when it comes down to that. Now, the jitsu that I think most people were really excited about was his ultimate, which was Shikaku. And I think it's called like Plain Possum or something like that. And it's actually a really good jitsu, man, to be able to transform into a Jinchuriki and actually use them, not just transform into it and you can't control them. It's a one-hit like blast and then they're gone. But to actually be able to use them to move around the map, I thought was very creative. Even though we can't harm the Jinchuriki or a turkey, whatever it is, in this stage, I think it was just dope, man, to just have him in there. Now, I will be honest about it. By seeing the transformation and seeing how he moves and what he can do, all they simply did was take the the Jinchuriki boss from the VR missions and then put him into the multiplayer, and boom, you have him. They gave Garra a little animation to, you know, add into the transformation. So I think it was pretty simple, but it does really well though, man, as far as like the damage it puts out, the ability to be able to turn the tides of a battle. Not quite like the healers can do, but I think it does a good enough job, and I really appreciate them just adding different challenges for us into the game, making us adapt differently. Now I could end the review right here, but there was a couple more things I wanted to try out to add to this review, just to give a bit more of a in-depth type of review. And it wasn't just about the character and how well the character jutsus match with him, it was also how well you defended against him. And if he was a character that had a different version of himself in the game, I wanted to match them two together. So I wanted to see how Adult Garra would compare to Young Garra or Kid Garra, and I tell you, man, Kid Garra takes it by far. Combo selections, jutsu selections, just overall, man, he was just a better character. And they had, I think, 2 Garras on their team, and I just had myself. But nonetheless, it was one-on-one fights when I went up against Garra. The guy just kept besting me. Like, I tried Sand Shield against his Sand Tsunami, and his Sand Tsunami won. His Sand Barrier won. Everything just kept knocking me out of my ultimate defense. I even tried that one where I forget the name of it, but when the sandstorm or something like that. It was okay, man, but for the most part, everybody just kept moving out of the way and dodging it, especially if he's on Sand Tsunami and I triggered it. He just keeps on riding on it. It doesn't knock him off or do anything in that sense. So it was just really hard to try to counter Kid Garra with the Dark Garra moves. It just wasn't happening. Now, after that experiment in comparison, I wanted to see exactly how well these guys did with putting Garra Jutsus in their own build. And these guys were mean. Some guys had some really good Jutsu builds, man, and I just couldn't do anything about it. They kept catching me off guard when I was playing with Itachi, who was one of my favorite original characters or DLC characters, and they kept getting me in Sand Coffin. Like, no matter what I did, man, I just kept getting caught, and I couldn't do anything about it because my main move that I use from him isn't Susanoo, it's his Genjutsu. But you got to stay in place to use it, and it's like every time I even tried to trigger it, they just kept catching me, and I just couldn't get out of it. So people did a really good job, man, with taking these jutsus and making them their own. Like, some guys put me in combos where literally I couldn't do anything until it was time for me to respawn, and then I was able to move. Like, that's just how vicious these guys were with the combos. But I appreciated it though. But the main move that I wanted to test it against was the Sharingan. Any DLC that comes out, man, I have a tradition where I have to check out their moves or test them against the Sharingan to see just how well it does, or if the Sharingan is going to be able to avoid it, basically. And I gotta say, I was pretty happy, man, because the Sharingan was able to get away from Sand Tsunami. It was able to get away from Sand Coffin. It was even able to get away from Sand Barrier, and even a couple of Shikaku, you know, I guess wind style air bullets or whatever he calls them. So I was pretty good and happy and satisfied with that. So after being fully satisfied with playing as Garra, playing against Garra, playing against Garra Jutsus used in other guys, you know, individual builds, I am very satisfied with this character and his moveset, man. If you are a defensive class, you need to buy him. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when are you going to get him. Because if you run defense class, his jutsus are a must. I can't say, man, they put up a strong challenge even against me and my Sharingan builds. So I definitely say that it's a go, man. I give him a 10 out of 10. He adds a lot of different variety into the game. So please comment down below, man. Let me know if I missed anything, something else need to be added. Hit that like and subscribe button. Help your boy out with the channel that I'm trying to grow. And with that being said, I'm out.